Welcome to the 2024 Museum of Aquarium and Pet History video series at the Super Zoo show, basically. So today we have someone who is really has become an icon in the reptile industry, and this is Mr. Loren Leigh of LLLReptile.
Morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you here today because I have questions. When I was in the reptile business, there was these large places like Western Zoological, and there was in Monrovia, there was the one in Berkeley, which was East Bay Vivarium. There was the Shed, Louis Porras, that was in Utah. They mailed out price lists, and then the X generation came along, which was you.
Yeah.
And you guys decided you're going to do it the internet way. And you really pioneered that. I mean, you had a store in Oceanside, your first store, and you basically put everything in cyberspace, and you changed the way people thought about reptiles. It really became a generational hobby. And in my generation, the baby boomers, we were fish hobbyists. But in your generation and the generations after, they're reptile hobbyists.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of feels that way. But you really were at the forefront of it. You started with the first store that everybody knew about. Everyone bought from LLLReptile. It was.
We hope so.
It was everywhere. So tell me about it. How did you get started in reptiles?
So I started. I was working for a wholesaler in Los Angeles, early '90s, just out of high school, and going to school for business. Oddly, at the same time.
Wow.
Never really had reptiles on my radar, and I remember clearly one day working in the facility and seeing iguanas being unpacked, and they went from a small amount, and 6 months later it was 1,000, and watching this emerging industry before my very eyes as a young person, and started attending reptile expos, started getting into a little bit of breeding, and then when it all just kind of clicked, I always refer to people as like it was kind of my hourglass moment where I saw that middle where it was just ready to just take off. So from there I decided, well, hey, I'm 22, I can open a store. How hard can that be, right? So I moved to San Diego and used my experience of doing reptile expos, the little bit of business time that I had, and credit cards, and opened a store, and luckily met a lot of great people along the way, not only just from the industry, but I remember clearly meeting with the person that had this property I wanted to go into, and him telling me, well, you got to have glass insurance and liability, and I'm like, whoa, I don't. And then from there, we just kind of developed into a true business. But to kind of go back one step, I think what you kind of alluded to, which was interesting for us, is we saw the potential in the online world, and at that time, everything was like brick and mortar going to the internet. And what was kind of an odd situation for us is we were a company that was already doing trade events, then went into online, and then decided, well, we should also open brick and mortar. So we kind of went the other direction.
Right.
And I think that gave us a much better understanding of kind of the news, the multi-channel, omni-channel words that everyone uses today.
Right.
We were kind of already seeing that as we saw the consumer buy something from a show, come into our store, and then want us to send them food. And we kind of figured out how to put that puzzle together in 1995.
Right.
So
I remember going in your store, excuse me, and I never saw so many tattoos on people in my life, but you had a really loyal following. You have people that are still with you today.
Yeah.
They were with you back in that 1995, right?
Yeah, I'd say probably, we probably have 5-6 people that are over 18 years with us now.
That's tribute to how great of a manager
thank you.
Owner you are.
Yeah, I've always been a big believer, we've instilled that there's a career here. I think a lot of people go into a store or into the industry and they just think, I'm just going to be the guy working in the animal departments and stuff. They don't realize the true scope of what we all do, and the people like yourself that have these interesting little aspects of the industry that you don't really think about.
Right.
And as we've evolved, we have people that now have gone from owning a reptile that are now doing media and online stuff, and they've developed their own skill set. So, but Skillet is who you're referring to. He's been one of my right-hand mans for years. Oceanside original. Everyone knows him, and he's kind of been a face of our San Diego locations.
And just to some of the viewers, Skillet is a punk rocker, was in a band, and just a wonderful guy. Became a family man. Still works at LLLReptile, which is just amazing. And he's just the nicest guy in the world. But if you saw him, singing in this punk rock song, it's actually pretty funny.
It's funny to see two people's other worlds collide. Yeah.
Exactly. So, your business model is funny. You talked about omni-channel. I mean, no one really exemplifies omni-channel than you guys. I mean, because you didn't just do retail stores, and you're up to what, 8 retail stores now?
Yeah, eight in 3 states.
In 3 states. Yeah. That's incredible. And you own all of them.
Yeah,
they're not franchised.
We've self-invested, and no, we are strong believers. Keep it within our own control and entity. And as you know, with animals, it's a very hard thing to oversee from afar.
That's right.
So just really instilling that trust and that senior staff we talked about, but also the new staff, because we're from day one, company culture has always been huge for me. We've always treated people as a family, small business, and now you've got 3 generations of employees that are all mentoring each other within our own establishment. So that's kind of why our secret of our success, to be able to grow like that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you open a distribution center.
Yeah.
For fish and reptiles. So you sell to stores all over the country and maybe overseas as well, right?
Yeah, so that's kind of a little bit of why we're here today at Super Zoo. As we've grown in this industry, the industry is small. We're big, we like it, but you look around this hall and you see a dog food company and you realize the proportion of reptile to the other industry. But seeing what it was in the early 90s to today and the potential moving forward is so awe-inspiring, that we've realized that if we don't get into every aspect we can, so distribution has been a huge part. And really a lot of it is in one thing I really love about the industry is your competitors are your friends. You work with your competitors. It's much closer. So distributing to other stores, and then being able to also provide the animals from other people we've collaborated with has kind of been a huge part of what we do.
Yeah. I think the thing that's really impressed me the most is, and this is a tribute to the United States, is you've taken something like a ball python, and we used to import ball pythons, right? Who would think that there would be 100+ color morphs of ball pythons?
Oh, yeah.
That it would be such a marketable snake.
Yeah,
and leopard geckos, same thing. And now you've got isopods. Who would think that when you're a kid and you had roly-polies, that you'd be selling them?
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to be like a huge thing for you. That's the next big wave, right? And
well, not only one kind. I mean, we're like up to 18 species now.
That's just insane.
So, as you know too, it's interesting because something that's been a pet for, people think isopods, who has those as a pet? But I mean, what about the roach consumer and the spider consumer?
Right.
The consumer base is so unique. So now the isopods, you've got people that are still collecting them as pets, and others that are using them in the the paludarium vivarium trends that have gotten very popular. So you've now mashed these 2 worlds together. It kind of reminds me of when the plant people decided to build vivariums the other way around. Now you got the bug people figuring out how to make a self-cleaning ecosystem.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. I love it.
So then on top of it, you've got a breeding center. I mean, do you sleep?
Sometimes.
Stores, shows, distributor, breeding center. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah,
Nobody
is
as ambitious as you are. I mean, it's amazing to me. So, and your online business too,
online
right?
stuff too. So we're, again, it's an exciting industry with lots of different aspects that you can get your tentacles out there and really embrace every single area. But captive breeding in the U.S. has come leaps and bounds. I give a lot of credit to the manufacturers that have created the products that allow us to even push the envelope.
Right.
But we breed to not only new species, but also to develop species that fill voids and gaps. And you look at the huge success, like you brought up ball pythons and animals like veiled chameleons that the U.S. is easily sustainable now. And to think that was ever going to be possible through captive breeding efforts like ours. But now the new race and a lot of the people we work with is what's the next place to go, right? Like, it's interesting that you have to have knowledge on spider, but a snake, but also a tortoise, but also an isopod. So you can shoot, like every category's got something exciting that's coming through it. So that's kind of a little bit of why we started breeding at the size that we do.
What are you breeding there?
Our big projects right now, we're really into tree monitors.
Oh, really?
We've started working with a lot of tree monitors, red Ackies and yellow Ackies monitors. We do some colubrids, not many.
All right.
But we're really trying to look for those species right now that really haven't been established, that in my kind of personal opinion, like the tree monitors are slowly diminishing. They're becoming harder and harder to get. I think they have a lot of longevity because it follows that paludarium, vivarium. Who doesn't want a cool blue lizard in a tree environment?
Exactly.
Right? So
did you see at the ZoomEd booth they have like an emerald tree boa, and it's like it's a poster.
Oh, it's all roped up.
Yeah, and it's like right in the middle there with the vines and stuff, and it's just gorgeous. It's like something you'd see in a National Geographic magazine. You know, it's beautiful.
Well, we're seeing that. That's, I love watching the trends, and it's amazing. I used to joke back in the day with bearded dragons. It would take 3 hours to pick a cave out. In 22 seconds, that's the one I want, lizard-wise, right? Like that quick. And the same thing we're seeing now with the snakes. They're finding a snake as a showpiece and then building this like train set kind of like an environment around it.
Right.
So,
you ship tanks, you ship glass.
We do some.
It's difficult, right?
Yeah, we've a little bit here and there, but mainly I shouldn't take that. We do. A big portion that you kind of touched on that we do is we're really heavy in expos. We've been doing expos since early 90s.
Yeah, you're everywhere. Every reptile show, there's a LLL booth.
30, 35 shows a year at least.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And through that network now, we've realized how we can distribute these tanks either through the show environment.
Right.
And now we're getting into areas that, Montana, South Dakota, areas where the U.S. reptile population never even thought there was really a vested interest.
Right.
And now those tanks and things are getting into that area. Now you're starting to kind of almost see like a developing interest in these areas as well. So.
Exactly. It's funny because you touched upon all this captive race stuff, and a lot of people fly the captive race flag, which I get it. And you don't have a parasitic problem like you do with a lot of wild imports and stuff. The problem is if you stop wild imports, you stop a lot of new species coming in.
100%.
Look at the green-keeled lizard. That's going to be a great new lizard and stuff like that. And then you talked about species that are like disappearing. We bred water dragons. And I was so excited when we bred them. And they used to be, out of Asia. They were $1 or $2 each. They were super cheap. But now Asia shut down.
Yeah.
So now that lizard's going to go to what it should be worth, $75 or more, and keep going up if people don't breed them.
Yeah.
So you should get the babies from us and start establishing those.
Well, it's interesting how like an animal gets appreciated more when you quantify it with a dollar sign.
Right.
And I think the industry's been really good now of removing those dollar signs and taking an animal for what it was. We talked recently about Abronia, looking what they're doing with spiders. I mean, the captive production there is incredible. Like, I would be very surprised if we see any need. But I agree with you. It is an interesting talking point where, I remember at my old job, we had a guy that used to wear a button and it was use your head, buy captive bred. And he would come in and cherry pick imports. And we were always like, you're not using your head. But, it had, until we as a collective group established these species, which I think we should raise that flag proudly that we have.
Yeah.
And we will continue. And hopefully we can continue keep working with these pockets of the world that will allow us to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Fish and Wildlife at some point wake up so that the captive race Fiji iguanas become CITES too.
Yeah.
The captive race offspring, because that's the best pet you could. I mean, honestly, that's the next bearded dragon.
Oh yeah.
Would be Fiji
100%.
iguanas, and they're everywhere. They're all over Europe legal. They're all over Canada legal, but not in the U.S. because of our stupid laws.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that's what's great. Like, in all credit to you with the USARK and working with USARK is it's nice to see now people actually having an interest in the laws.
Right.
Before you just, I couldn't have it. Now people are more like, well, why can't I have it? And when you really dig into it, the pictures change, and all of a sudden you start to ask your questions like Fiji Island iguana, why or what? It doesn't make any sense. The rest of the world can have them. Why can't we? It doesn't make any sense.
And they're not from the wild; they're captive.
Right.
So we're not taking them from the
captive
wild
successfully. Yeah, it's crazy.
I know, it doesn't make any sense at all. It really doesn't. So let me talk about growth plans. Where do you go from here? I mean, you've done everything. So I'm just wondering. I guess you could kind of keep going the route that you're going because there's so many new things coming around, new animals coming in, that kind of thing. We just saw the green alligator lizards across the way there.
Yeah.
And so you could keep buying new species and champion those, whatnot. But do you have any other plans, any other detours you're going to take in the reptile trade or other fit animal trades that could you tell us, or is it secret?
No. I think there's a little, honestly, we've made some mistakes along the way, like dabbling, I remember very early on, we thought we'll put a rabbit section in our store. And we realized, luckily, it was a good learning curve because it taught us really quickly that if you change your category, you're a pet store. We're a reptile store. We're a specialty store. And we've stuck with that in our entire history. And I think for us, stores, we love retail. I've got great people, as Skillet and everyone else.
You've got great people there.
Because we've been able to really harness that energy and the youthfulness of the people that are into the hobby now, that is much different than the people that were into the hobby 20 years ago.
Right.
It's in a weird way, we almost are kind of hindered to grow because I have so many people right now I could pop into locations, and the US is wide open. You rattled off stores early on and Berkeley and stuff, but if you really start making a list of the reptile stores throughout the country, you can put them in about 3 states on a bigger scale.
Right.
And to see stores as in my travels that are popping up in my hometown now, Bozeman, beautiful store.
Really?
Who would have thought fish and reptile specific? So I personally, in answer to your question, I think there's a lot of room for larger retail throughout the U.S. Specialty retail, specialty into reptile. We will cross over a little into paludariums and vivariums, which then bring in plants.
Right.
There's a lot of interest now in self-sustaining, like aquariums, like Japanese style.
Right.
Aquariums. So we're kind of getting a little bit more into that. Aquascaping. We're getting a little bit into that now. So we're seeing that interest kind of come forward.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be another area. And then the online side. And I think with online, it's more getting the information out, which I really enjoy now. It used to be much more, here's a coupon, buy.
Right.
Now it's like, look how cool our store is. Make your own opinion, and I hope you come in. And it's nice to be able to put positive information out there on the industry too. So.
The one thing I love about this industry is all the reptile people are so passionate about what they do that if the government tries to shut it down, because they got the animal rights people barking in their ear, the reptile people just come out in droves.
Oh yeah.
And they come out on cyberspace, which is what no politician wants.
Oh yeah.
They're afraid of that. So it's like it's been the first time in history that really an animal group has band together and been so successful in fighting these ridiculous laws that come out that allow us to keep pets. And it doesn't matter, any kind of pet. I'm upset I live in California and I don't see a pet shop with dogs. It kind of upsets me. And granted, I know there are some bad pet shops that shouldn't have dogs. By all means, shut them down. But there's a lot of good pet shops. Yeah. I worked for a store where the guy was a dog breeder, and he bought from his friends that bred dogs. So we didn't have dogs from the Midwest. We had local dogs,
That's kind of what I was, bringing it up with USR. It seemed like at one point it was fearful to say, this lizard you buy will probably be banned in your state in 2 years. Right. It's hard to sell that as a retailer, right?
Right.
But I think now that we're actually, these are going to be banned, but yet you can still buy one. But we want to let you know if you don't get involved, and people now are getting involved.
Right.
And I love it. I mean, going to these shows and seeing these US ARC functions, and the energy and the letter writing campaigns and the alerts that people are responding to. I mean, I went to a situation just in my area again in Montana, and there were reptile people that showed up.
Awesome.
They got the word out, and there was a small network. But it's exciting because it allows you now to know that there's a potential for animals that one time we might have. I use boa as a great example. When people were kind of going after the retics and everything, the boa people I think were, maybe us next, right? And all of a sudden there was like boas just disappeared, right? Like no one wanted to breed. But there were no laws in place. It was just the fear.
The fear of it.
And now that that's been cleared, everyone's like back in mode again.
Right.
But hopefully we cannot allow that situation to happen again, because as a retailer and as someone trying to sell to people that are interested in the hobby, we need inventory, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's sometimes it gets a little scary when you see people that are kind of removing themselves and not really getting into the forefront of it.
See, I breed the wrong animals at Zoom. I breed turtles. They lay 5 eggs. and the amount of labor and electricity involved in breeding those
Oh
turtles.
yeah.
You know, if I sell one for like less than $15, I lose money. So like I tell them, I go, you know, there's got to be a baseline for how much you sell these for. I got to at least recoup some of the cost.
Well, we're both in the wrong state to be breeding
Yeah,
too.
exactly. If I was in Louisiana, I'd buy a turtle farm,
Exactly.
and I'd be in really good shape back then. And I've thought of like going in partners with you on a turtle farm someday. That would be awesome. Actually.
Well, there's one of our future ideas.
There you
Business
go.
plans right there.
It'd be great. I mean, you'd be a great partner, I'll tell you, because you're very articulate. You're very hardworking, and I'm amazed at everything that you've done. I really am.
Thank you. I love this industry. It's easy.
It is.
I mean, we both love what we do. It's easy to get up. I think about it when I wake up. I bore my wife with it, talking about it when I get home. It's all I know. It's all I kind of breathe it, right? Like,
oh my God. I think I covered just about everything, and unless you've got any final comments, but I'm really appreciative of everything you've done, Loren, and thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk to you.
I think I'm honored to be talking to you. I respect you madly. You're
thank you.
someone I've was a fledgling, and you're what I alluded to. Those people that kind of rolled out the red carpet in the beginning for me. You were one of those people, and I saw a lot of faith in this millennial Generation X group that's coming up, and I feel honored that I feel like we're kind of like I'm passing the torch to the people below me now, and they're growing this industry even more. So the framework that's been in place is.
You're the youngest person I've interviewed.
Really?
Yeah, but the thing is, you've done so much in so little time. I mean, it seems little, but it's not. I know it's about 20 years or something, right?
Yeah, 28 years for me.
28 years, right? But it's a blink of the eye. It probably seems like yesterday to you. But you've done so much. I'm like, I need to have Loren here because he really set the bar for everybody else.
Oh, well, thank you.
Because everyone looks at you and goes, "Oh, I want to be Triple L." I mean, I hear that.
Yeah.
I want to be like Triple L. But no one's done it yet.
Well, I take hey, that's a good flattery, right?
Yeah,
I tell my staff all the time, if people run, we just run faster.
That's it.
Just keep out in front and just keep it interesting and moving forward.
And treat your employees like family.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
That's the backbone of it all. It really is.
And I used to do trade shows and show up with a vacuum and everything else, I never let people think that I was above them, I mean, respect the knowledge that you have, that you've gained, but don't try to be above them or, hey, I'm the boss.
100%. I always take the worst job. Everyone else's job is that much better, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, thank you so much, Loren. I am so appreciative. All right.
Really, really honored to be here.
All right. That's a good one. That's a wrap, guys.